Sleep Tight is a twin-stick shooter set in the imagination of a young child. Like most young imaginative children, the children of Sleep Tight see shadowy monsters from the corners of their bedroom, and well, they're just not going to take it anymore. Equipped with their Nerf guns and pillow forts, these children will do whatever it takes to survive the night. Sleep Tight is available on PC and Nintendo Switch for $15. We're jumping right into the gameplay, as Sleep Tight doesn't feature a story mode but rather just one primary game mode. Sleep Tight has a total of 12 playable characters, each with their own unique attributes. For example, one might have a pistol while another may start off with a heavier weapon. You only start off with one character, but through the challenges listed next to each of the character silhouettes, you can unlock the rest of the cast and give yourself new goals for each of the games in the process. That's where a lot of the variety in the gameplay comes from, because matches can feel a bit repetitive. When you boil it down, Sleep Tight is a survival game that's divided into rounds like many other games in its genre. Each match takes place in a square bedroom, with each corner having an upgrade spot where you can use your resources. At the top left of the screen, you have a meter that tells you your amount of suns, stars, and the night you're on. Suns and stars are earned by defeating monsters and surviving nights, and they're your currency for just about everything in the game. Going to your desk, for example, you can research new power-ups, weapons, and defenses. These can be anything from a new rifle gun to an overshield that gives you an extra barrier before your health gauge. You can also use the currency to build up fort walls that'll guard you from monsters, something useful for one of the challenges that has you play a pacifist route. All of these upgrades and accessories cost suns, and so you'll find yourself constantly balancing out your needs and wants for survival. Every night you're forced to spend your suns before starting the next round of monster fighting, so you're sort of forced into this inventory management system. As for the combat, it's simple and pretty straightforward. It's set up in a twin-stick manner that's quick, smooth, and responsive. One slight difference between this game and other games in its genre is that there's no auto-fire in this game, but rather a dedicated fire button that ended up adding an extra layer of strategy for me. Certain guns shoot rounds differently, not just literally, but also in the amount of ammo each shot takes. In nights where your ammo is scarce, it really does matter to pay attention to what gun type you're using, and how many runs of that gun takes to defeat one monster. Now, while the combat and the resource mechanics are smooth and responsive, the enemy AI isn't that great. They feel like the bare minimum, where they just attack pretty much anything that's foreign to them. Sometimes they'll attack me, sometimes they'll just attack my forts even when I'm not behind them, and other times they just literally spawn on top of me. It can feel a bit random. As for the difficulty of the nights, I found it to be all over the place. I was able to survive a handful of nights by simply just closing myself off in forts and just using my new suns on fixing the forts and then getting more ammo. Building something like a block fort, you can sort of predict where enemies will mostly spawn, usually in front of you or on top of you. With that said, as you survive more nights, more hordes of larger enemies start to appear, resources start to dwindle down like forts and ammo, and so you'll be pushed to think of new strategies. That's the foundation for this game, and it can easily get repetitive. Outside of a few Easter egg-like game modes for specific characters, the main game mode is a survival mode that can feel a bit low on the content side. You only have one map to play on, and a lot of the strategy of the gameplay could have been benefited by more maps that change out the layout of the gameplay, and thus how you use your resources. It just feels like the developers easily overlooked that. Sleep Tight has a lovely visual aesthetic that I think a lot of gamers can resonate with. Being in your childhood bedroom, building pillow forts, and shooting your foam gun while seeing monsters in the shadows of your imagination. It's incredibly charming in that sense, though certainly not a great looking game. Playing primarily on the Nintendo Switch version for this review, I noticed that the gameplay looked fuzzy both in handheld mode and in dock mode. While it is running on the Unreal Engine, it doesn't really look like a taxing game at all, so it's a bit puzzling to see how soft everything looked. Really, the only things I ended up liking visually was the design of the room and the character portraits for the kids that really gave each of the characters a personality. Overall though, Sleep Tight looks very much like a mobile game from a UI standpoint, and a game that uses open source models for its assets, the monsters most of all. The music in Sleep Tight is alright at best. There really isn't a ton of it. You get your day track that's bright and peppy, perfectly fitting the setting of a child's bedroom. At night when the monsters come out though, the music picks up in beat and feels more like an action film than anything. They're not particularly catchy, but they get the job done for the setting at least. The voice acting on the other hand is just terrible. Each of the characters get their own little voice clips that they say during fights, and they sound so bad. It really sounds like the cast filmed it on their built-in webcam mic and just dropped it into the video game. What is done well on the other hand is the use of HD rumble in the Switch version. Each weapon gets their own unique rumble feedback that feels nice and oddly enough is the best sound-like feature in this video game. Ultimately, Sleep Tight is a pretty average survival twin-stick shooter with a charming setting behind it. Although I love the idea of children fighting monsters hiding in their bedrooms, I don't think it was executed that well. The resource management was the most promising thing in the gameplay, but the lack of maps and really the variety in maps made everything feel repetitive. Pair that with the somewhat lacking presentation with mediocre sound and incompetent AI, and you get a twin-stick shooter that's just average. At its $15 price tag, I say consider picking it up when it's heavily discounted and mainly for its combat. It's an entertaining enough game that I can see myself playing it on the commute for a short period of time, but so long as I have my Switch muted and I actually have my headphones plugged into my phone and Spotify instead. If I had to give it a score, I'd give Sleep Tight a 6 out of 10. That's my review of Sleep Tight for the Nintendo Switch and PC. If you enjoyed the review, then please consider giving it a thumbs up. You can also click on my face to subscribe for more videos just like this every single week, and check out my most recent videos on the left side of the screen. Thank you all very much for watching, hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.